Real Enigmas and Theories is back again with another video. Today we're going to be recapping Season 1, Episode 1 of The Changeling. They dropped the first 3 episodes and the other 5 of 8 will be coming weekly, so we'll have some time to jump into this and pull out those magnifying glasses to see what we can uncover. The show starts off with a ship in the ocean, specifically on July 5th in the summer of 1825. The ship left Norway with 52 passengers, and the narrator explains how the passengers must have had help to make it through the tumultuous waters. Then we go to a library in the year 2010 in Queens, New York, where the main character, Apollo, is looking for some books. A mentally ill homeless man is yelling about needing to use the bathroom, which doesn't seem to be much of concern to Apollo until he hears the beautiful voice of a woman saying,
"Listen to my voice. Can you hear me?"
He observes the way she handles the guy and is obviously impressed and tries to ask her out but gets turned down. And that's when we get a flashback of Apollo's parents meeting during the New York City garbage strike of 1968. Apollo's mother is working at a modeling agency and his father is a probate officer there to visit her boss, Brian West and Lillian Kabwa. Apollo's father was also turned down by his mother, but the man was persistent. For 9 years, he tried to get a date with this woman he'd met, and in 1977, she finally said yes. So we then get to see the inherent persistent in Apollo as he also gets turned down 7 times before Emma finally accepts his 8th attempt. I mean, it would be kind of strange to accept a date from a man who asks you out before he even asks you what your name is. After their first date, Apollo walks Emma home, and during the walk, he expresses how he would love to have children and be a husband. Emma informs Apollo that she will be moving to Brazil for an unknown period of time, and that was the reason that she actually turned him down in the first place. And on this snowy night after dinner, the couple kissed, and a short time after, they're kissing at the airport before she boards her flight to Brazil. Coincidentally, Apollo's parents shared their first dinner at the very same restaurant back in 1977, the restaurant Umibozu, a Japanese-themed restaurant that obviously has been rooted in this community for a long time. Brian doesn't drink, and he shares some of his origin story and tells Lillian about how he worked at the movie theater as a child and came up in a dysfunctional home with an alcoholic father, and how he wants to be a great husband and have children himself. Later, they go to the movies where Brian once worked to see Rocky, hence the name Apollo, where we later find out that that's where the child gets his name from. The couple falls in love, and soon they're moving boxes into their new place together. Moving always brings back memories, and Lillian remembers that sad story that she declined to tell at her first date with Brian, the death of her brother Arthur at the hands of a Ugandan dictatorship. Brian West vanished by Apollo's 4th birthday, and since then, Apollo had a reoccurring dream of his father returning. However, he was peeling off a blue skin mask and blowing blue smoke out of his mouth. He shared his dream with Emma before she left for Brazil and has still been having different variations of this reoccurring dream. Apollo's love for reading is how he met Emma at the library. Along with his love for reading, like any child growing up in the 80s, he had a love for music and video games. That love for reading also leads Apollo to discovering a postcard with a quote about sodomy by Aleister Crowley. That postcard was written to a Mr. and Mrs. Edmund Boston. That looks like a serious connection clue there, but we'll get to that in another video. And while Apollo was making the discovery of his life, Emma was exploring the beautiful landscape of Brazil. His dream of his father is also now mixed with memories of him finding one of his boxes, the same box that we see Brian moving while Apollo's mother was pregnant. We also see visions of his father taking him away. Apollo wakes up to a text message from Emma. and after months of being there, she's coming home. Apollo goes to the airport to pick her up and finds out that her flight is delayed. After checking his watch, which appears to be the same watch owned by his father, he falls asleep at the airport and wakes up to being kissed by Emma. Over lunch, Emma tells Apollo about an adventure that she had while in Salvador. The family she stayed with told her about a lagoon that she shouldn't visit, but she did anyway. There she met an old woman with a blue eye that tied a red string to her wrist and told her to make 3 wishes before 3 knots had been binded. When the string falls off, the 3 wishes would come true. The creepy interaction scares Emma, and she runs off while this woman tells her not to cut the string. After hearing this, Apollo takes Emma's hand and cuts the string and tells her that he will grant her 3 wishes because he's the god Apollo. They continue their relationship right where they left off before Brazil, and Emma gets pregnant. Apollo goes to meet with Emma and her friend Michelle at a restaurant. Emma excuses herself to the bathroom, and while she's gone, Michelle discloses to Apollo information about a nude photo of his wife in a Norwegian art gallery that she took with a photographer in Brazil. A Norwegian photographer? Is there a connection to the Norwegian ship at the beginning of the episode? We'll find out. She goes on to tell him the actual wishes Emma made with old Blue Eye, but is interrupted by the waiter telling Apollo that his wife needs him. She only manages to tell him 2 of the 3 wishes, one for a husband and the other for a child. The couple abruptly leave the restaurant and they try to make it home for their planned home birth. They take the subway and somehow the electricity goes out, leaving them stranded on the subterranean tracks. She has the baby in the subway car and they name the baby Brian. And the episode ends with some visions of things to come. So the first episode of The Changeling seems to be a very different story from the movie off the bat. The show is teeming with clues and connections and very little answers as to what's going on. At the very beginning, we get a short tale about a Norwegian ship called the Restoration that had traveled to America in the summer of 1825. These 52 sloopers left Stavanger and settled in Kendall, New York, which is in upstate. Apollo's father was also from upstate New York. There could be a connection there. The Norwegian sloopers traveled west, and the surname of Apollo's father is West. However, Apollo was given the last name of his mother, Lillian Kagwa. She also fled to the west from Ugandan dictatorship. During the scenes of 1968, several missing posters can be seen in the midst of the garbage left behind by the strike. A missing girl by the name of Courtney Ekbo can be seen clearly while Brian walks past. Strange enough, the name Ekbo and Kagwa are most frequently found in African countries. I also noticed the similarities of events between Brian and Lillian versus Apollo and Emma, like how both men were turned down but were both persistent. The first date at the same restaurant. Both men expressing that they wanted to be a husband and father on the first date. And there are some more like situations. All of this aside from the obvious curses and binding spells. In my last video, I spoke about the relation to spells, spelling words, cursive, and binding spells. Also how cursive is like a rope or string, which is an instrument of binding. A string was used by old Blue Eye at the lagoon with Emma, and she was instructed not to cut the string. 3 wishes were made before the binding of 3 knots. By the way, somebody needs to find Michelle and find out what that 3rd wish was. Also, to me, it looked like Apollo's father was mouthing the words help when he was blowing the smoke out his mouth. And for some reason, I think there may be some sort of experiment being done with these people. Here's why. When Apollo's parents were moving in together, Brian can be seen carrying a box with the word improbablia on the box. Apollo also finds this box at the door, with his father's items in it. That's where I assume he got the watch from. I looked up this word and I couldn't find anything other than a website for a short show about a scientific brain study company that pays people to be test subjects. Some of the subjects develop abilities and are hunted down by secret nefarious agencies, but it could all be a drug-induced hallucination. Now, the similarities of events didn't just stop with the couples. A woman in Apollo's therapy group in episode 3 was describing her situation with being told to take medicines and how she also saw photos disappearing in her phone. Who would be able to make images delete from a text thread? Could someone be pulling the strings behind those images? Moreover, this man Apollo put a pillow in the door next to the car seat for extra cushion and drove at 10 miles per hour. But he took that same 2-month-old into a strange basement and laid him on the floor. Who knows, there could have been rats in that basement or whatever. He also laid him in a driveway and changed him on the floor of a dusty bookstore and wonders why his wife was going crazy. All jokes aside though, I will be recapping episode 2 and 3 and giving some more breakdown and analysis. For now, go check out my last video about the cursing from. Some of the information there also applies to this show. Anyway, just something to think about while we wait on the next episode. That's all for my video today. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.